On the third day, God planted the garden in the east of the earth, on the border of the world eastward, beyond which, towards the sun rising, one finds nothing but water that encompasses the whole world and reaches unto the borders of heaven. And to the north of the garden there is a sea of water, clear and pure to the taste, like unto nothing else, so that through the clearness thereof one may look into the depths of the earth. And when a man washes himself in it, becomes clean of the cleanness thereof, and white of its whiteness, even if he were dark. And God created that sea of his own good pleasure, for he knew what would come of the man he should make, so that after he had left the garden, on account of his transgression, men should be born in the earth, from among whom righteous ones should die, whose souls God would raise at the last day, when they should return to their flesh, should bathe in the water of that sea, and all of them repent of their sins. But when God made Adam go out of the garden, he did not place him on the border of it northward, lest he should draw near to the sea of water, and he and Eve wash themselves in it, be cleansed from their sins, forget the transgression they had committed, and he no longer reminded of it in the thought of their punishment. Then again, as to the southern side of the garden, God was not pleased to let Adam dwell there, because when the wind blew from the north, it would bring him, on that southern side, the delicious smell of the trees of the garden. Wherefore God did not put Adam there, lest he should smell the sweet smell of those trees, forget his transgression, and find consolation for what he had done, take delight in the smell of the trees, and not be cleansed from his transgression. Again, also, because God is merciful and of great pity, and governs all things in a way he alone knows, he made our father Adam dwell in the western border of the garden, because on that side the earth is very broad. And God commanded him to dwell there in a cave in a rock, the cave of treasures below the garden. But when our father Adam and Eve went out of the garden, they trod the ground on their feet, not knowing they were treading. And when they came to the opening of the gate of the garden, and saw the broad earth spread before them, covered with stones large and small, and with sand, they feared and trembled, and fell on their faces, from the fear that came upon them, and they were as dead. Because whereas they had hitherto been in the garden land, beautifully planted with all manner of trees, they now saw themselves in a strange land, which they knew not and had never seen. And because at that time they were filled with the grace of a bright nature, and they had not hearts turned towards earthly things. Therefore had God pity on them, and when he saw them fallen before the gate of the garden, he sent his word unto Father Adam and Eve, and raised them from their fallen state. God said to Adam, I have ordained on this earth days and years, and thou and thy seed shall dwell and walk in it until the days and years are fulfilled, when I shall send the word that created thee, and against which thou hast transgressed, the word that made thee come out of the garden, and that raised thee when thou wast fallen, yea, the word that will again save thee, when the 5 days and a half are fulfilled. But when Adam heard these words from God, and of the great 5 days and a half, he did not understand the meaning of them. For Adam was thinking that there would be but 5 days and a half for him to the end of the world. Then God, in his mercy for Adam, who was made after his own image and similitude, explained to him that these were 5,500 years, and how one would then come and save him and his seed. And again, when Adam was by the gate of the garden, and saw the cherub with a sword of flashing fire in his hand, and the cherub grew angry and frowned at him, both Adam and Eve became afraid of him, and thought he meant to put them to death. Then God had pity on them, and showed them mercy, and sent his angel to keep the garden. And the word of the Lord came unto Adam and Eve, and raised them up. And the Lord said to Adam, I told thee that at the end of 5 days and a half I will send my word, and save thee. Strengthen thy heart therefore, and abide in the cave of treasures, of which I have before spoken to thee. And when Adam heard this word from God, he was comforted with that which God had told him, for he had told him how he would save him. But Adam and Eve wept for having come out of the garden, their first abode. And indeed, when Adam looked at his flesh that was altered, he wept bitterly, he and Eve, over what they had done. And they walked and went gently down into the cave of treasures. And as they came to it, Adam wept over himself and said to Eve, "Look at this cave that is to be our prison in this world and a place of punishment. What is it compared with the garden? What is its narrowness compared with the space of the other? What is this rock by the side of those groves? What is the gloom of this cavern compared with the light of the garden? What is this overhanging ledge of rock to shelter us compared with the mercy of the Lord that overshadowed us? What is the soil of this cave compared with the garden land, this earth strewed with stones and that planted with delicious fruit trees?" And Adam said to Eve, "Look at thine eyes and at mine, which afore beheld angels in heaven praising, and they too without ceasing. But now we do not see as we did. Our eyes have become of flesh, they cannot see in like manner as they saw before." Adam said again to Eve, "What is our body today compared to what it was in former days, when we dwelt in the garden?" After this, Adam did not like to enter the cave under the overhanging rock, nor would he ever have entered it. But he bowed to God's orders and said to himself, "Unless I enter the cave, I shall again be a transgressor." Then Adam and Eve entered the cave and stood praying in their own tongue, unknown to us, but which they knew well. And as they prayed, Adam raised his eyes and saw the rock and the roof of the cave that covered him overhead, so that he could see neither heaven nor God's creatures. So he wept and smote heavily upon his breast until he dropped and was as dead. And Eve sat weeping, for she believed he was dead. Then she arose, spread her hands towards God, suing him for mercy and pity, and said, "O God, forgive me my sin, the sin which I committed, and remember it not against me. For I alone caused thy servant to fall from the garden into this lost estate, from light into this darkness, and from the abode of joy into this prison. O God, look upon this thy servant thus fallen, and raise him from his death, that he may weep and repent of his transgression which he committed through me." And Eve wept bitterly and fell upon our father Adam from her great sorrow. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this. Your support means the world to us. And if you want to go the extra mile, consider joining our Patreon community. Your contributions directly help us create more films, documentaries, and thought-provoking content. AI video generation is an exciting but resource-intensive process, and with your help, we can continue to bring these stories to life. The link is in the description below. Thank you for being part of this journey.